Okay, let's be honest. How many of us are still rocking that brand new gym membership? Or actually cracked open that stack of self-help books we swore we'd conquer this year?
Yeah, those New Year's resolutions, they can be tricky.
They fade faster than our holiday tans sometimes.
Yeah.
But what if this year could be different?
What if we can actually make them stick?
That's what we're diving into today. We've got this super insightful article called New Year's Resolutions, Why They Fail, and How to Make Them Work.
We're going to break it down, figure out the science behind making those resolutions last.
You know, the article starts off talking about unrealistic goals. Anyone else kind of feel personally attacked by those New Year, New Me posts? Like people suddenly transforming into marathon runners overnight?
Oh, yeah, it's a classic trap. We get so excited for a fresh start, and then bam, we set these massive goals that are, let's face it, not really doable.
Totally. Going from zero exercise to working out every single day. That's asking for burnout,
Exactly. It's not about aiming low, though. It's about, finding that balance between being ambitious and being realistic.
right? So what's actually doable? I like how the article uses the example of weight loss.
Instead of trying to drop, like, a ton of weight super fast, they suggest focusing on those healthy habits first.
Yeah, adding more veggies to your plate or going for a walk a few times a week.
Exactly. Those small steps make a big difference.
It's about those baby steps, those consistent steps that build like a foundation for long-term change.
It is.
And the article also talks about how important it is to actually have a plan,
Yeah.
not just some vague idea of what you want to do.
Absolutely. It's one thing to say, I want to be healthier, but that's not enough. You need specific steps, actionable stuff.
So it's like, okay, instead of just saying, I'll eat healthier, I'm going to plan out my meals for the week, right?
Yes. Or like maybe try a new healthy recipe each week.
Instead of just wishing for change, you're actually like creating a roadmap to get there. It's like, I'm not going to become fluent in French by wishing on a star. I need to actually schedule those Duolingo sessions.
Exactly. It's making those abstract goals concrete. And you know what else the article talks about? The power of routines. Our brains, they love linking new habits to old ones.
So it's like, if you want to start meditating every day, maybe try doing it right after you brush your teeth.
Right. Or after your morning coffee. Yeah, you're kind of piggybacking on something you already do without thinking.
And that makes forming a new habit so much easier because you're not starting from scratch.
It's true.
Okay, now let's be real for a sec. We all want those results, like yesterday, the whole instant gratification thing. How does the article deal with that?
That's a big one, right? We get impatient, we set these huge goals, and then we get bummed when we don't see results right away.
It can be so discouraging.
The article is all about shifting that mindset, though, moving from instant gratification to long-term thinking,
It's about accepting that real change. It takes time.
and celebrating those small wins along the way.
Yeah, like, hey, I went for a walk 3 times this week. That's a win. Even if I'm not, like, marathon ready.
Exactly. Recognizing those little victories, those are the stepping stones to that bigger goal. Each
Mhm.
step keeps you motivated.
It really does. Now, the article also touches on something I think is super important, motivation.
Yeah.
How do we know if we're doing things for the right reasons? What if our motivation just fizzles out?
That's huge. The article actually suggests asking yourself why. Why is this goal important? Is it something I really want? Or am I just feeling pressured by, like, other people?
Because if your heart isn't really in it, it's going to be tough to stay committed.
Oh, absolutely. It's the difference between, say, wanting to learn guitar because you love music versus, because you think it'll impress someone.
It's that real passion that fuels the effort.
And speaking of support, the article talks about how important it is to have people in your corner. Sharing your goals, finding a buddy, or even joining a group, it can make a huge difference.
It's like having your own personal cheerleader, someone to celebrate with and, offer encouragement when things get tough.
It's creating a support system. It helps you stay on track, and it reminds you why you started in the first place.
And that's so important because let's be honest, setbacks happen. We're human, we slip up.
We do.
So how does the article suggest we deal with those moments when we, fall off the wagon?
It encourages us to see those setbacks not as failures, but as learning experiences.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of falling into that all or nothing trap,
Right.
we should see them as a chance to learn, to adapt, and to get back on track.
So it's like, okay, I missed a workout this week. Instead of beating myself up about it, I'm going to figure out why it happened and how I can prevent it next time.
Exactly. It's about being kind to yourself and understanding that progress isn't always a straight line. Everyone stumbles. The key is to get back up and keep moving.
I like that. So we've talked about why resolutions fail, but the article also gives us a whole toolkit for making them stick, right? Where do you even begin?
Well, one of the most effective tools they highlight is something you might have heard of: SMART goals. Sounds simple, but there's a real science behind it.
Okay, break it down for us. What does SMART stand for? And how can it actually help us reach our goals?
SMART stands for specific, measurable, attractive, realistic, and time-bound. Each one is important for setting yourself up for success.
So instead of just saying, I want to learn to play the piano, a SMART goal would be more like, I will practice piano for 30 minutes every other day for the next 3 months.
Exactly. You're defining the what, when, and how. You create a clear path for your goal, making it easier to track your progress and stay motivated.
That makes so much sense. But let's be real. Sometimes, even with a SMART goal, getting started can feel overwhelming. Does the article have any advice for, getting over that initial hurdle?
It does. It brings us to one of the most interesting ideas in the article: the 2-minute rule.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's this magical rule? And how can it help me conquer procrastination?
It's actually really simple, but super effective. The idea is, if a new habit feels scary or overwhelming, you start with a tiny version of it that takes no more than, you guessed it, 2 minutes.
So like if my goal is to read more, I should just start by reading 1 page a day.
Exactly. It's about making it so easy to start that you can't say no. No more intimidation. You build momentum slowly.
That's brilliant. You're basically tricking your brain into forming a new habit.
Yeah.
And what else does the article suggest for staying on track?
Making your progress visible.
Oh, okay.
That could be anything from using a habit tracker app to marking off days on a calendar, even just writing down what you achieved each day.
Oh, I love visual reminders. Seeing those check marks or those filled-in squares on a calendar, it's so satisfying.
It is.
It's like a real tangible representation of your progress, right?
It totally is. And it reinforces those good feelings you get from achieving your goals, keeps you motivated. And here's something that I think is super important. Enjoy the process. If your goal feels like a chore, you're not going to stick with it.
I totally get that. If I'm forcing myself to run on a treadmill when I hate running, it's not going to last long.
Nope. It's about finding ways to make the journey enjoyable. Instead of focusing on what you can't have, look for ways to add in things you actually like.
So if you're trying to eat healthier, maybe try some new recipes that you're actually excited about instead of forcing down boring salads.
Exactly.
Or, if you want to be more active, find a dance class you love or go on hikes. It's about finding that sweet spot where healthy habits and enjoyment meet.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And, lastly, the article reminds us to be patient. Celebrate those small wins along the way. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Those small victories are what keep us going.
Okay, too.
It's about acknowledging those moments of progress, no matter how tiny, and letting ourselves feel good about them, like giving yourself a little pat on the back.
Exactly. And with that, I think we've covered some of the big reasons why resolutions fail, and some pretty powerful strategies for making them stick. What are your thoughts so far?
I really like how this article goes beyond just like giving you generic tips.
Yeah.
It actually digs into the why behind our successes and failures.
Yeah, it's not just about willpower.
It's about understanding how our brains work.
Absolutely. And it really emphasizes how important self-awareness is. It's not about blindly following some one-size-fits-all plan.
Right.
It's figuring out what works for you, your motivations, what you like, your situation.
It's like, okay, the 2-minute rule, that sounds great, but maybe for writing a novel, it needs to be tweaked a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's writing for 5 minutes a day instead of 2.
Right, you got to make it work for you. And speaking of adapting, I think it's worth talking about setbacks again.
Yeah.
The article frames them as opportunities for learning, which I think is so powerful.
Instead of seeing a slip-up as reason to just give up, it's like, okay, what happened? What can I learn from this?
Exactly.
Turning those setbacks into fuel for the future.
It's about building resilience and, remembering that progress isn't always a straight line. We all mess up. The important thing is to get back up and keep going.
And, it's interesting how this all connects to what the article says about motivation. It's not just about finding that initial spark. It's about keeping it going over time.
Especially when things get tough.
Exactly. The article talks about this idea of intrinsic motivation, that deeper internal drive that keeps us going, even when there aren't any shiny rewards.
It's about connecting with your why, the real reason behind your goal, the thing that truly resonates with you.
So it's less about, I want to lose weight to fit into that dress, and more about, I want to feel energized and healthy so I can enjoy life to the fullest.
Exactly. It's about finding that deeper meaning. And the article has some great suggestions for actually cultivating and, holding on to that intrinsic motivation.
Oh, like what?
Well, one is to focus on the process itself, not just the end result.
So not just the number on the scale, but how those healthy meals make you feel, or the sense of accomplishment after a good workout.
Right, those little things. And another strategy is breaking those big, scary goals down into smaller steps. It makes the whole thing less overwhelming.
And you get to experience those little wins more often, which keeps you motivated.
Yes. It's like checking things off your to-do list. It feels good. By breaking down your goals, you create more opportunities for those little victories.
And you're less likely to get discouraged.
Exactly. And you know what else helps with staying motivated? Having a support system. The article talks about how sharing your goals with others, finding someone to keep you accountable, or even joining a group can make a huge difference.
It's like having a cheerleader in your corner,
Mhm.
someone to high five when you're doing well and, pick you up when you stumble.
It's about giving and receiving support. And it's funny because when we support others, it often makes us even more committed to our own goals.
It's like that feeling you get when you're part of a team, right?
Yes.
Everyone's working together towards a common goal, supporting each other through the ups and downs.
Yeah.
And speaking of ups and downs, let's go back to what we were saying about celebrating small wins.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in wanting to be perfect. But those little steps forward, they're super important.
They really are.
Acknowledging those moments of progress, even if they seem small, and letting yourself feel good about them, like, giving yourself a little high five.
Absolutely. And you know what? Those small wins, they often lead to bigger ones. Each time you hit a small goal, it boosts your confidence. You start to believe in yourself more.
It's like building a staircase to success, one step at a time.
And it's okay if those steps aren't perfect. We're going to trip, we're going to miss a step sometimes, but the important thing is to keep climbing.
I love that analogy, and it reminds me of what we were saying about the 2-minute rule. Even those tiny actions, when you do them consistently, they add up to something big over time. It's like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Sometimes that first step is just showing up.
Even for just 2 minutes.
And those 2 minutes, they can become 5, then 10, then 20. You start building momentum.
You do.
It's about trusting the process,
Yeah.
believing in yourself and celebrating those small wins along the way. It's not about those overnight transformations or getting instant results.
It's about the journey.
Yeah, enjoying the ride.
So, you ready to shift gears a bit?
Yeah.
Talk about some of the practical tools the article gives us for making these resolutions happen.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty. I'm ready to turn these dreams into action.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground. We talked about the psychology behind making those resolutions stick, right? Setting realistic goals, building those tiny habits, finding what really motivates us.
Yeah, but how do we actually put all this into practice? Make it happen. The article gives us some really helpful tools and techniques to, turn those ideas into action.
Yeah, like that 2-minute rule we talked about.
Exactly. It's such a simple but powerful idea, right? Starting small, with just 2 minutes, it helps us get over that hurdle of just getting started.
I think a lot of us get stuck there.
Yeah.
It feels so overwhelming, we just don't even start. But if you tell yourself, it's only 2 minutes, it feels way less scary.
Totally. And, before you know it, those 2 minutes become 5, then 10, and suddenly you're actually doing the thing. You're building that habit. The article also talks about making our progress visible, which I think is so helpful.
I love that.
Whether it's using a habit tracker, marking things off on a calendar, or even just writing down what we did each day.
I am a huge fan of visual trackers.
Yeah.
Seeing those check marks or those filled-in squares on a calendar, it just feels so good. Like, look what I did.
Right. It's like a tangible reminder of how far you've come, and it keeps you motivated. Plus, it kind of taps into that reward system in our brains. Those feel-good chemicals that make us want to keep going.
It's like a little dopamine boost every time you check something off. And speaking of rewards, the article talks about celebrating those small wins, too.
Yes. It's so important to acknowledge and appreciate those moments of progress, even the little ones.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything big, just like taking a moment to savor that healthy meal you made, or feeling proud of yourself after a workout. Even just acknowledging that you showed up for yourself today.
Exactly. Those little pats on the back along the way, they make such a difference. And it's not just about, external rewards either, treats or prizes. It's about those feelings of pride, accomplishment, just the joy of doing things that are good for you.
It's about finding those moments of satisfaction within the process itself, not just focusing on the end goal.
And that's where finding activities you actually enjoy comes in. If you hate your workouts or you're forcing yourself to eat food you don't like, you're not going to stick with it.
It makes sense, right? It's about finding that sweet spot where being healthy actually feels good. Maybe it's finding a type of exercise you love, trying new recipes, or just finding ways to make healthy choices that you're actually excited about.
And one thing that really resonated with me from the article is this idea that it's not about being perfect.
Yeah, we're all human.
We're going to mess up.
Totally.
The point is progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
We have to be kind to ourselves. Recognize that setbacks are normal.
It's letting go of that all or nothing thinking. Every day is a fresh start.
Absolutely.
So if we slip up, it's okay. We just learn from it, get back on track, and keep going.
And that's where having the right mindset comes in. Believing in ourselves, believing we can actually do this, that gives us the strength to keep going, even when it's hard.
It's about believing in our ability to change, to create the lives we want.
And trusting the process, knowing that small, consistent efforts, they make a huge difference over time.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this. What's one small step you can take today to move towards your goal?
It really doesn't have to be anything big.
Maybe it's drinking an extra glass of water, going for a quick walk, or just spending a couple minutes thinking about your why. That thing that motivates you, keeps you going.
Remember, every journey starts with a single step.
And you have the power to take that step. And the next one.
And the next one.
We believe in you. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of New Year's resolutions. We hope you found it helpful and inspiring.
Until next time, keep striving, keep growing, and keep celebrating those wins, big and small.